This is the sanctuary or temple at Camp Etna, which is the Camp Etna Spiritualist Camp in Etna, Maine. All of the interviews that we will be doing today are the individuals' perceptions that we are talking to, and not necessarily affiliated with any spiritualist camp or any other religious or spiritual tradition.
Hi there. This episode is called Toys That Go by Themselves. I decided I wanted to do this video because I've experienced this myself, and I have friends who have experienced as well. I'm a grandma, and this didn't happen when my kids were small, but it did happen with my grandson, that some of the toys would go by themselves at the same time. We would be in a different part of the house at the other end of the room or something like that, and the toy would go off all by itself. And we would check them, we would make sure that the batteries were really strong, and they would still go off, and it was sometimes disconcerting. I'm holding one in front of me right now that used to go off in the middle of the night sometimes, and I'll talk more about these particular toys and how they would go off. Right now, I want to introduce you to Celeste and Guy and Bethany and Lionel, who've had the same thing happen in their house with their toys. And so we're going to talk a little bit about what that's like and what causes that, and whether that's something you need to be worried about or just annoyed. So I'm going to start by showing you this. This is an Elmo telephone. You can barely hear it because it has really, really old batteries in it. This one used to go off by itself all the time in this really long room that I had in my old house. When Tyler, my grandson, would come to visit me, this would go off. And this, which is a some sort of a play, what would you call this, a keyboard? It's a keyboard. And it has classical, rock and roll, and jazz on it. And it's got Cookie Monster, Elmo, and this is Ernie. And different ones will go off at different times. Of course, you've got to have batteries in it. There are no batteries in it right now. But when it goes off, Cookie Monster will go, yeah, rock and roll. And I'd be somewhere in another room and I'd hear, yeah, rock and roll, going off. And then I would hear a little bit of the music. And this would used to happen a lot of the time. It mostly happened when I was feeling sad, or when I was feeling worried, or when I was feeling scared, and it kind of seemed like it was a validation to sort of make me feel better, a reminder from Spirit that I wasn't by myself. This one, this is very interesting. This one here, anybody recognize? I think it's Fisher Price, is it? No, this is a Fisher Price farm, and
it's like it's a little people farm.
A little people farm. Yep, it's a little people farm. This one used to go off when we would be at one end of the long room, and this would be at the other end, and we would hear this sound. And it would keep doing it. And I have a grandfather whose name is Grandpa Pony. And whenever we would talk about Grandpa Pony, something in the other room, we would hear this. And it would go off. Or we'd be at one end of the room, and my grandson would be heading down the middle of the room, and this would go off in the corner down there.
That's very sweet.
That used to happen a lot. So that was Grandpa Pony, and there was another one. Oh, where is it? Yes, this one. This one is for really little babies. And we had a length of time there when Tyler was about 6 months old and was laying on the middle of this. This would be going back and forth, and the cow would go moo, moo. Well, sometimes he wouldn't be in there, and it would go moo, moo, and start going back and forth. That was a little disconcerting because he was quite young at that time when that was going on. And I came to understand that what was really happening was Tyler's grandparents were being present with us by making these toys move and go when nobody was there, and just making the noise or making the music or whatever and checking in with us. And I'm not sure, but I don't think this happens in families that don't have a little bit of psychic ability. I think if your family has some psychic ability in it, then you're probably going to see this type of thing happen. And it's pretty normal in our families, those of us who have these abilities. And if it's happening in your house, perhaps you didn't know you have this ability. So I'm going to ask my friend Bethany to talk about the toys that they had doing things for them in their house and what that was like for them.
Well, it started off with this one, which is a little temperamental, and it would, in containers, really easy because it's got big buttons. But when it started just sitting on top of a countertop or on top of the toy chest and going, we didn't really think too much about it until this would start going off. And we had one similar to this one that when you pushed a button, it would go forward. And when you got toys, when the kids are in bed, going off and scooting away, when you're not playing with toys yourself because you don't care to, you start to kind of question what's going on with your toys.
So you would actually have 2 or 3 toys going at the same time in your house?
Sometimes.
After the kids had gone to bed and they were in bed and the toys would be doing their own thing.
Correct.
So do you remember any of this, Celeste?
No, she was real tiny.
Oh, that's right. How about you, Lionel?
No.
I was fast then.
Yeah, it was, he said he was fast asleep by then.
Oh, right.
It was predominantly not when they were playing with them, and it was more or less to get my husband and myself's attention because it was also the room where we meditated a lot in.
So this was in the same room you meditated in a lot, and this would be going on while you were trying to meditate?
Sometimes. Or watch TV. We also at one point, we had a balloon. It was just after my daughter's 2nd, 3rd birthday, and it was a balloon that was semi-deflated. So you know they're only like about this far off the ground. Well, this balloon was floating up, floating down. We weren't thinking too much about it until it was going from room to room to room, and it wasn't bouncing around. It was going straight, as if someone was guiding it. And then when it would turn, it would make a clear turn, as if someone was guiding it. And it would never bounce around. It was clearly straight. And we had a friend over at the time, and what it would do was it would go down the 20-foot hallway, go into the bedroom, go up to the bed, come out, and then it'd go down the hallway, back into the bathroom, come out, go down to the bedroom, come into the bedroom, go up to the bed, because the kids were sleeping in their beds, come out, and then it came into the living room, and we had our layout set where we had the living room, dining room, and then a kitchen, and there was like this big, there was like a semi-portion of a wall around all of them, and it went around and around, and we had no windows open. And it went around and around, and then at one point it decided, it was like, go, hey, look at me, and it went up real high, and it would go down, and it would go up, and it would go down, and it would go up and down, and then it ended sitting next to my friend on the couch.
So did you ever ask who's doing that? What's going on here?
No, I didn't think about that one.
That didn't occur to you?
We just were thinking, we gotta take pictures. No one's gonna believe me.
So you took pictures?
So we did take pictures,
Awesome.
which I didn't bring, of course, because I didn't think about it. But it was definitely something. It was definitely continuity for me. There was no doubt about it.
And when you say that, you mean continuity of life?
Continuity of life.
Life going on after the
Because
physical
there was
body.
no one touching that balloon. And it wasn't until shortly, like about a month or so after these things were occurring that I had actually seen the spirit of a little girl when I would be playing with the kids. She would sit
In that apartment.
in that apartment. She'd sit down and start playing with us. And I'd be one day I saw her playing in a corner of toys, and when I only saw her because when I looked in that direction, she scattered off, and all the papers started flying. And if it wasn't for that, I would have just thought it was my eyes.
So you think maybe in your case, in this apartment, there was a little, a ghost, let me rephrase that, an earthbound spirit.
It was a spirit. I'll just say
in the house
it was a spirit.
that was playful and was playing with the toys and the balloon in your house.
Oh yeah, she wanted attention for sure.
And in our house, what was going on was my grandfather was coming in and trying to make his presence known to me and to my grandson. And I felt like other family members were coming in too at different times. So you want to ask yourself whether or not this is a family. You want to ask, who is this? Is there someone trying to come through to me? And then listen for what you hear, because that will give you a clue as to what's happening in your house. My friend Rebecca used to have, she used to be married to someone else than she's married to now. But the grandfather, the man that she used to be married to, used to come into their house all the time to check on his grandson. He died like 5 years before the little boy was born. And he used to come in all the time and set all the toys off all the time. And the little fella, Derek, would not be anywhere near them, and they'd be going out. And it used to drive her nuts. She really didn't like it because it really got on her nerves because it was happening all the time. So if you don't like it, you need to ask them to stop. And by the way, don't just assume because it's making noise that there's a spirit around. You want to check and make sure the batteries are in all the way, that they've got real strong connections.
Okay.
He's fine.
He's
That's what babies do when they're happy. You want to make sure there's real strong connections for the batteries, that the terminals are clean. You want to make sure that the batteries are in all the way. Just do everything you can to make sure that it is, in fact, something happening from spirit and not just a malfunction in the toy, because it could just be a malfunction in the toy. Oh, I forgot to bring, there's another little Elmo toy that lights up. It's like a little organ that lights up, and that one used to go off. The little keys would light up, and it would play these little songs. That one used to go off too. So don't worry about it. If it happens, check out your batteries first. If your batteries are good, you want to ask, who is here trying to get my attention? Is anyone here trying to get my attention? And see what you get from that. Anything else you want to add about your experience?
Other than the fact that it was different, when it wasn't something I expected to happen. It wasn't very frightening. I mean, especially once I started to see her, it kind of made a lot more sense. When I saw the spirit.
When you saw the little girl spirit.
When I started tuning into tuning into what was going on.
Then it made sense.
It made a lot of sense.
Yep.
Because she just really was trying to get a connection with someone who was like a mother.
Right.
So.
And the truth is, this is part of the world. In the world we live in the reality that we live in, there are sometimes spirits who are trying to get our attention, and it's perfectly normal, and it's nothing to be afraid of, and that's all there is to it.